Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like. We appreciate that.
Podcast below in the description. Subscribe.
I do have to say this. As someone who thought Marcus Mariota was not a franchise quarterback coming out of college and said so at the time, as someone who thought he wouldn't be able to bring much to the table, like we talked about this when they signed him, he wasn't going to bring any competition to Derek Carr. It wasn't very good at the end of Tennessee. Derek was better than him. I did really enjoy watching Marcus Mariota on Thursday. I hate to say this because it sounds cheap. The tackle he made to what we thought saved the game. It's not a tackle that it's not, like quarterbacks don't get credit for how they how they tackle guys who just intercepted them. But it was just part of what he did over the course of the game. He just looked like a winning player. I don't know, man. I just loved watching Mariota.
I'm gonna disagree with you on the I think he deserves credit for the tackle.
Okay.
Even Aikman was like, that was a fantastic play. Because one, he kind of has to shed a block and then he leaps. I didn't realize how close Chris Harris. I'd say the overwhelming majority of quarterbacks in the NFL, Chris Harris scores. Ironically, Chris Harris had done something very, very similar once upon a time to Derek at Oakland when he was at Denver on a crossing route, came out of nowhere. This was a little different because it actually hit the offensive player, but same deal over the middle. It was like eerie seeing it. But, Guy, I thought he played his ass off tonight. Just extending plays, making plays, being like you saw some of the deficiencies, right? He's not pinpoint accurate, but he's also kind of a playmaker, and he kind of got the rhythm. He was running the ball with such a kind of a fervor and a fire of like.
He was.
Maybe I had forgotten it. Maybe he hadn't been on the field in a while, and he'd kind of obviously got benched last year. This year, not playing. You just kind of take it for, you don't take it for granted. You realize this every snap. I mean, I'm lucky to be out here, and he was running like he was playing Arizona, stiff-arming guys, 360-ing. There was like life to his play.
There, no doubt. I thought he was going to look like what running quarterbacks look like when they're old, and he didn't because he's only 27 maybe. I'm with you, though. He looked like what running quarterbacks look like when they're fresh.
There was a first down that he got, obviously the touchdown.
That was the early, right? He gets that first down. He powers through three guys, and I was like, oh.
Well, because he's not small. It's not. I think he looks a little slimmer than Herbert, but he's big.
Yeah.
He's 6'4". He's a big dude.
A photo of him and Herbert post-game, and Herbert is, I don't think people realize, Herbert's massive. Right? Herbert's like 6'6". But Marcus is right there with him. They're patting each other's shoulders, and the camera guy is like in their navels trying to get a photo. I mean, they both look huge. But he also made some fantastic throws. He made some bad throws too, right? He made
the
some
Waller touchdown down the sideline early. Yeah, he's just, and I think here's his problem overall. He does not have a Derek arm, right? And I think a lot of people, and you and I were on radio at the time, people kept comparing him to Steve Young. And it's like Steve Young is basically just the athletic Drew Brees. Like, who's the most accurate quarterback of all time? Well, technically it's Drew Brees, but forever it was Steve Young. Like, you watch Mariota, he's not like pinpoint, right?
Yeah, it's not his arm strength that's the problem to me. It's his accuracy that's the issue.
Yeah, he doesn't have a great arm, but his arm's far from it is good enough. He's just not accurate. And his arm, he's not throwing these Herbert howitzers. So if it's a little behind, it has a little extra loop. It's a little Alex Smithy where if it just gets tipped, it kind of plops up instead of like a Herbert is like 100-mile-an-hour fastball off like the catcher, off the umpire, still hits, the back netting. You're like, oh my God. Mariota's just kind of up there a little bit longer. And to me, the pick was kind of, whatever. But you do see there is an element to this offense and this team that, and even Aikman hit on it. Like, it's not like Derek's a bad athlete, but they can just run plays with Mariota, whether he's comfortable with it. Clearly he is, right? You can just run a keeper, and he just runs it. There is some natural, to me, talent, and it's just / repetition. Like, that's just not Derek's deal, right? Even though he is an athlete and he can run, he is a pocket quarterback. He's a throwing quarterback. Mariota truly is a dual threat quarterback, right? If you needed him to carry the ball 15 times in the game, he can do that.
Yes, but he's less of a threat with his arm. Right.
But exactly. But my point is,
it's like
But there are plays that you just can purely like you can run keepers and tell Marcus keep this. That you're probably not calling if Derek's in the game. Because I had people tweeting at me like Derek isn't this good. Well, it just would have looked a lot different. Maybe the Raiders score more points. I don't know. You can't judge it. The offenses look completely different, right? They're just polar opposite games.
Yeah, I do give them credit for being ready to call a different game the second he came in.
No, I'm not. I
know you're not. I think. I mean, I didn't watch the game and think, is Marcus better? I don't think that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I had thoughts that just went. This does add a different element, and I also had thoughts. I just put myself in the coach's shoes. I immediately put myself in the coach's shoes, and I asked, well, if these next couple games go, because we've been losing with Derek too, right? So if I'm doing all this cool shit with Marcus and I can get him for 7 to 10 and I could trade Derek this offseason for a 2 and a 3 and then I get some extra cap space to go buy some defensive players and my offense can still be good, my mind just started working. I'm not saying Mariota's better, but this is an economic problem, guy. And the Raiders have a problem. It's called their defense. And part of it, like, where are they just going to get money to buy players? Well, boom, if I can save $20 million from I think Derek next year is like 21 or 22. Mariota's 7 or 8 or 10. I think it goes up a little bit next year.
I don't think you can win 10 games with him.
Well, but again, I'm just saying, I just think eyes were open. He didn't lose them the game the night one.
No.
And he's going to probably get a couple more starts because I'd imagine, when you get called out in a game, I think it's fair to take an educated guess. Derek probably out for the year. There's only 2 games left, right? With the injury, the growing injury.
I was so excited when he suffered that. Not excited that he suffered it, but I was like, I can't wait till John has to say the injury. Yeah, that was bad.
People were tweeting at me like, "Is it a controversy?" I don't think it's a controversy, but it is. It's just a conversation because he's not a nobody. He is a former number 2 pick.
He's not a nobody, but look, he should have. He saved the game by tackling the guy who picked him off after a bad throw. Now, every quarterback in the history of Earth has made bad throws, but he also made great throws to put him in position and great runs.
No,
he did. I just think he's too inconsistent as a passer. But the problem is, like, he's good. He's better than, like, you do have to pay him a lot of money to be on your team because he's clearly better than most backups, right? It's a weird dynamic now that he's got himself in. Like, I don't think you can be a playoff. I don't think you win playoff games with him. I know the Titans got to the playoffs with him. But
if he could play for a while, if Teddy Bridgewater can get 3 for 60, couldn't he get some money just to be a starting quarterback?
You're probably right. He probably could. I just don't.
I'm not into paying him 3 for 60. I'm just telling you. You just see if he can put these 3 games together that look like that. The NFL is just desperate for, especially veteran guys that have some pedigree. I don't think he was as bad as he showed when things got out of hand in Titans.
I agree with you.
And that's probably, like, tonight is who he is. Like, he's a good starting quarterback. He's probably like somewhere on a given day between 22 and 12. Like, his best is like 12, 11. But his worst can be in the 20s.
12, 11, like,
in the league.
Like, see, I don't think so.
I'm talking on an individual game. Like, he could throw 3 or 4 touchdowns and run for a couple. Yeah. I'm talking not a season.
I don't think he can consistently play like a top 15 quarterback.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Derek can get right up on that.
That's where you're seeing my wide spectrum, guy. He could be like 23 on a given game. He could throw no touchdowns.
I think you're post-game emotional on him because he did do a lot of winning. He made winning plays.
Yep, my point is I can just see why teams are going to like the guy if he can play like this. I don't know. It's 1 game off the bench.
Yeah.
He's going to, I'm sure, get 2 more starts. They're big for his career.
They are. No, there's no doubt. Because if he got $8 million off of what he was.
Could the Raiders trade him? Could they keep him? I don't know. Just things get weird. He's not a nobody, right? He is former number 2 overall pick.
Derek's the starting quarterback next year and they pay Marcus Mariota $10 million to be the backup, would you believe me?
No.
You don't think Gruden would try and pull that off?
That's what I'm saying. I can already see it. If he looks good, you could save so much money.
Yeah, but you still have to have a starting, like a real NFL, like a
NFL
quarterback.
Gruden's crazy enough to think he could probably win with Mariota because he'll just blame the defense.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that necessarily, but Gruden's crazy.
Yeah, I
do think
that would be crazy.
You would be shell shocked if he did something like that.
I think it would be a crazy thing to do.
He does crazy things.
Well, but does he? I mean, we think he does.
Yeah,
but
I
when it
mean, he
comes to-
traded Khalil. He traded Amari. He just fucking does.
But
he fired
Derek
his
wants
best
to be there.
friend.
Neither one of those guys wanted to be there. In Oakland, I mean Vegas. Sorry, I was reading John's first half hat.
Do you think the Raiders got mad at him for doing that?
Somebody noticed and said something. And he didn't notice. He didn't look in the mirror and go, "Oh, I'm wearing the wrong hat."
Yeah.
Somebody saw it on Twitter and said something.
Well, for sure. I think I can tell you exactly what happened. I know these guys too well. Twitter was blowing up, kind of celebrating it, calling it cool, kind of like making fun of John. Who knows, going a lot of different directions. The head honcho, not Mark Davis, his little cronies, got furious because of how much money Vegas is spending. You got to get them the right hat.
By the way, as
send
they
someone's
should be.
down. Yeah, I mean, as
maybe
a hat
furious is
wearer,
strong.
you're a hat wearer. Once you get that fitted hat that fits perfectly, as I think Troy said, it's just in his locker. And he just might have grabbed the wrong one.
I'm just saying, if I were running the team, I would have said somebody get him a Las Vegas hat.
Yeah, I'd be furious if I was Mark Davis. He's got to be wearing Las Vegas hat on the fucking sideline of the state. Has to be doing it on national television Thursday night.
Well, this does make I am interested to see how he plays if he is the quarterback for the next 2 weeks. Which it feels
Again,
like,
not a doctor. I just don't see how Derek comes back this week if he was out.
He might try to though. It wouldn't shock me.
Well, it's got to be a little weird from him the sideline to see the guy playing well. Because again, it's not a nobody. It's not Peterman. It is someone that they paid a large chunk of change for a backup, highest paid backup in the league. I'm not saying Derek's not excited. If you put anyone listening, if you put yourself in his shoes, it's easy to say team guy. You're not a wide receiver. You don't do it as a group. You're it's an individual position. You know, because I'm like, God, it's got to be weird watching if you're him.
Yeah,
because he was kind of balling guy and making plays that you can't make.
Yeah,
you're like, but I can throw. Like I can run. You know. Guy, he was diving for touchdowns over defenders.
I know.
And people love him. That's the other thing. He is loved. If you just go, what do you think about Marcus Mariota? Whether you think he's a good player or not, like, hey, I've been rooting for that guy for like a decade.
Yeah, great guy. I know.
Yeah, people just like the guy.